Hi, everyone. David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at one of the graded stakes events this Friday at Saratoga. Race 9 is the National Museum of Racing Hall of Fame Stakes, a grade 2 event for the 3-year-olds going the 1 mile distance on the turf course. Of course, this race run later in the afternoon after the Hall of Fame induction in the morning on Friday at the museum in Saratoga. We've got 9 3-year-olds entered to go this 1 mile distance on the turf course, Mike. And it's going to be interesting to see how this field evolves over the course of the week, because there are 2 horses that are cross-entered between this race and the Saratoga Derby on Saturday. Those would be Boas, the number 9, as well as the number 5, Glavine. So we're going to be interested to see where those trainers decide to go. But even with the field, the way this came up, feels like the number 1, Touch of Fire, might have an opportunity to control this on the front end. And that's one of the reasons why I made him the 5-2 morning line favorite.
Yeah, it seems like maybe he gets the right the right pace situation. It's also, I think, probably helpful to him that he gets to turn back a little bit to a mile here. So we'll see how it all plays out. Before we get into this, though, David, question for you. Assuming it stays intact, 3 from the Belmont Derby in this field, 4 from the Saranac. Did you have a preference between those? Did you have a dividing line between those 2 races, or does it not matter to you? These are all really good horses.
It's really the primary question you have to answer when you're handicapping this race, because you're right. The primary contenders come out of those 2 races. I'll say this, Mike, and we'll get into it more, kind of, going through with a fine-tooth comb. I wouldn't say that there's as big a difference between those 2 races as the grades would suggest, with one being a grade 1 and the other being a restricted stakes race. Let's start the conversation with one of those horses coming out of the grade 1 Belmont Derby. That's Touch of Fire. He was the 4th place finisher that day at 7-1. It was a competitive field going in. It played out as a competitive race on the racetrack. We could take a look at the replay of Touch of Fire finishing 4th, because this was a race that featured a blanket finish at the end. But Mike, I think the first 7 finishers across the wire were separated by less than 2 lengths. And you can see Touch of Fire, he's coming into the stretch on the lead. Also highlighted in behind is Boas. We'll get to him a little bit later in this discussion. But Touch of Fire, he controlled the pace. They weren't going that fast up front. It's not like they were crawling, though, but it turns into a sprint to the wire here. The whole field's coming together. Touch of Fire can't really see it out. So, Mike, based on this replay, I kind of understand why the connections are thinking that maybe the flat mile is going to be better for him.
Yeah, I that's how I looked at him too. Based on his prior efforts, I don't know that I would necessarily say he can't get 9, though. I mean, because he had just won to start going 9 furlongs without real issue, and he certainly was easily outfinished in that replay that we just watched. And he was also, I don't know if you agree with this, David. He was, in my opinion, he was just loose on the lead in there. They didn't really challenge this horse early. I'll just put it bluntly. I was disappointed in his performance last time. I thought he would run a lot better than that, even though I, really like some of the horses that were going by him in the stretch. I just thought he was disappointing last time. I get the case to be made for him in here, but if he is going to be the favorite and you made him the favorite on the morning line, I'm betting somebody else.
Yeah, Mike, to answer your question further from before, from a speed figure standpoint, these races came up very similar. The Belmont Derby just was not a particularly fast race, and it's not like his 85 buyer last time out makes him any kind of standout in this field. That pace projector, it does give him a boost because he's likely to control the pace once again, but we'll see how much of an advantage that turns out to be. The number 2, Print, he's going to hope that there's some hitting up front because he doesn't have the most early speed. Not that he's some plodding closer, but he was pretty far back last time out in the Saranac, was trying to make a run through the stretch. I'm kind of curious to know what you thought of the trip, because there definitely were moments in the stretch where it felt like he didn't really have that much room to maneuver, and he kind of got out at the end, but maybe it was too late. I had trouble deciphering how much more run I thought he had that day.
Me too. And it's a pretty big question, although it's a question that, I didn't lose any sleep over at the end of the day, David, because he's just going to be a big price again. And so that being the case, I'm just going to stay positive on this horse. But it's worth noting, you're right, the Saranac's a race that you probably want to go back and watch pretty closely a few different times to look at the trip some of these horses got, because there were horses in that race that didn't get clean ones. And I just thought Print was one of those. I'm not suggesting he was going to win. He was definitely, in my opinion, going to be closer at the end of that race if he could have gotten clear in the stretch, and he just really couldn't do it. I just add that on top of the fact that I just thought he ran really well 2 starts back also. I think that was a step in the right direction for him. I think he improved again last time. Maybe he takes one more step forward here and gets himself in the mix at a price.
Yeah, I think he might be a little better than he looks, but let's remember the Saranac was a race that featured a very honest pace, unlike the Belmont Derby, and I think you did want to be coming from pretty far back, but I think you wanted to get a clean run. Print did not do that. The number 3 is Vasy. He's coming from a different race. He's exiting the Grade 1 American Turf, having last raced in early May at Churchill Downs. And Mike, I didn't love the performance that day. Yes, he was close up to the pace, and I mean, they were going an honest clip up front, but just really had no answer when they asked him at the top of the stretch, backed up that day. His Transylvania prior to that was a better effort, and I suppose less distance does help him because he feels like more of a miler. I'm just not sure that I think he's quite as good as these horses.
That's how I looked at him too. Yeah, I'm with you on the going shorter maybe is just ultimately better for this horse. I still am not sure how much it moves him up, and I felt like he had to move up quite a bit to beat this field.
The number 4, Third Coast. He's one of that trio coming out of the Grade 1 Belmont Derby, getting a little bit of class relief in here. And Mike, I know this was a horse that you liked going into the Belmont Derby at a big price. He was 30-1 that day and hardly disgraced, finishing 6th. Like I said, just less than 2 lengths behind the winner on that occasion. He got a pretty good trip, saving ground most of the way. But Mike, there were a few horses that were never fully clear through the stretch, and he was definitely one of them.
Yeah, one of the reasons I could stay positive on him. You're right. I mean, I liked him. I bet him last time in the Belmont Derby. I thought all in all he ran fine in that race. He did get a good position early in the race. I'm not going to argue that he actually broke to the lead first time through the stretch. They didn't want him there, so they took a hold of him and sort of raided him into the pocket there. The trip until the top of the stretch, it was fine. He never saw daylight in that race, and as Lescano, you could kind of see it's easier to see on the head on, but he wanted to get this horse to the outside, and West End Kid was right there, right next to him the entire stretch run. Couldn't get off the rail. Towards the end of that race, Touch of Fire was backing up to his inside, so he couldn't get to the rail either, and he just never saw a clear run. Listen, I don't know. It's hard to tell how much run he actually had, but I think he had run. He was not losing ground through the stretch of that race. Still think this horse is good, David. Still think he fits really well with horses like this, and I think he deserves another chance in here. I do want to see what kind of price he winds up going off at. They're going to put blinkers on here. I don't know how much of a difference that's going to make, but I will say this. He is a horse he's a very good gate horse, and he's got early speed. If this pace is going to be slow again, I'm going to expect Lescano to maybe be a little more aggressive this time.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mike. The blinkers going on, I know it's not a move you'll love, but at least with this horse, he's got the natural speed to potentially take advantage of that pace projector that you're seeing in the lower right-hand portion of the screen. The number 5 is Glavine, and I know he's not showing forward on the pace projector, Mike, but if this horse could ever get out of the gate cleanly, he does have the natural speed to be involved early in his races. But when you watch the last 2 trips, Mike, the thing that really sticks out to me is this horse just is unfocused and unsettled in the starting gate, and it's been a real problem for him. He was kind of bobbing his head up and down, and he hopped at the start of the Pennine Ridge 2 back. Very similar in the Saranac last time, just not settled in the gate, didn't break that well. Now, after that, I thought that John Velasquez worked out as good of a ride as he could have with a horse that was out of position early. He saved ground, weaved through traffic, got there at the end, but just couldn't quite push past the last first winner. Here's Johnny, who had the best closing kick of anybody. We'll see if he runs here. He's one of the horses that's cross-centered between the Saratoga Derby and this race, but if he does start in this one, Mike, he's got to break cleanly.
Yeah, you're right. The last 2 starts he has, and actually even in his debut he did. So he's run 4 times, and in 3 of them he was not good from the gate. So it's starting to become a real issue for him. This horse is good though. If he can get the right kind of trip in this race, he could easily beat these horses if this is where they're going to run him. I guess it's all a question now, David. If he runs in this one, you know, what kind of price is he? What kind of price do you want to take on him? It feels like he's going to take money in here, but he should.
The number 6 is Arizona Territory. He was one of the favorites in the Saranac last time. And I don't know, Mike, I wasn't quite sure what to think of his effort because he drew a difficult post position. He was 11 of 11 and kind of put Flavien Prat in a difficult situation because you want to stand for position a little bit so you don't get totally outrun and are forced to rate and last early. But it played out in a fashion where maybe you just did want to take back to last because the race completely fell apart at the end and was won by a last to first winner. And here's Johnny. Arizona Territory, he was kind of always in that 2 to 3 wide position around the track, and he had a clear shot in upper stretch, but it almost felt like he was more concerned with keeping Print, we already talked about, locked in behind or inside of him at the top of the stretch that he was going forward with his own momentum. So I thought it was an odd trip last time, but I won't be surprised if he runs better here.
I took the same position. I won't even add anything to that because that's the point I was going to bring up, is that he was really concerned with not letting Print get into the clear of the stretch. They were bumping each other a couple of times, and then the winner just ran by to their outside. This horse's 2 starts prior to that were really good, really impressive. He's got a big, strong closing kick in him when the trip works out for him. I could easily see him bouncing back here and winning this race.
The number 7 is Immortalised. He is the other Brendan Walsh trainee in this race. And again, one of the few coming out of a race that is not the Saranac or the Belmont Derby. He raced at Churchill Downs last time. The American Derby was the second time in a row that he was no match for Alpeland, who's won several stakes races around the country. Mike, I just didn't feel like this horse ran nearly as well as Alpeland 2 or back or last time. Really didn't like the way he finished off the last race where he kind of shut down in the final 16th of a mile. So he's picking up Jose Ortiz here. I guess that helps given how well he's been riding at the Saratoga meet, but I feel like this horse needs to improve.
Yeah, I do too. He's okay. I mean, he's very consistent. I'll give him that. I just feel like this is a pretty big class test. And Alpeland, the horse that he's been losing to, is pretty good. He would fit well in this field too, but I'm not so sure there aren't some even better horses in this race.
The number 8, Blinging It Back. He is another one coming out of the Saranac. He's actually the top finisher from that race that is coming back in here because here's Johnny, the winner, is going in the Saratoga Derby instead. We can take a look at the stretch run of this Saranac. We've been talking about it. Like we said, it was a pace collapse situation. Here's Johnny, one from last to first. We'll highlight Blinging It Back the first up. He's the gray horse that's just popping off the rail in that blue cap right there. He's going to come on through between horses. Glavine is the chestnut in that yellow cap that's going to weave through traffic towards the inside. We already talked about him. Like, horses were trying to close, had trouble navigating traffic in this race, but I do want to give Blinging It Back some credit because, like I said, this was a race that fell apart. Of all the horses that were involved, really in the top 5 at the end, he was the one that was closest to the early pace, and it's not like he was pressing the pace. He did try to make an early move, leaving the backstretch between horses to improve his position when you probably just wanted to wait and be patient in this race. He squeezed through that hole in upper stretch to get there at the end, just got run down by Here's Johnny in the late stages. This horse is okay. I mean, even his Pennine Ridge 2-back, he didn't run great in that race, but I didn't like the trip that he got. He was just 3 wide, uncovered almost the entire way around the racetrack. That's not a winning trip on the turf. He's one where I really do think that the flat mile distance works for this horse.
No, I like him getting back to this distance too. Yeah, I don't know what to do with him, David. Your points are very well taken about his trip last time, sort of being closer. And this, I would just add on to that, the winner, there's really no substitute in a race like that for being down the outside in the clear, making your run from the top of the stretch when everybody else, or not everybody else, but a lot of other horses are having to alter, look for holes to come through, maybe have to switch down to the inside. All that stuff is not as good as just coming down the outside in the clear. And so Blinging It Back, having to sort of force his way through that hole there and then kick into gear, maybe it cost him the race there, but he ran really, really well last time. And as you pointed out, maybe he was even a little bit dirtied up on the way into that race.
And this horse has some natural speed. I'll be interested to see where Edgard Zayas placed him in the early stages. Rounding out this field is the number 9, Boas. It certainly would be appropriate for this horse to get the job done in the Hall of Fame on the same week that his trainer's late father, Miguel Clement, of course, his father, Christophe Clement, will be inducted into the Hall of Fame at the National Museum of Racing this week. We'll see if Boas actually runs here, Mike. He is one of these horses that is cross-centered in the Saratoga Derby on Saturday. He's coming out of the Belmont Derby. I thought he ran pretty well, kind of similar to Third Coast, saved ground early, was really never clear in the stretch. And I think it might have been even more detrimental to this horse because he needs to sort of get his momentum going to make that kick from the back of the pack effective. And he was just never really clear, never seeing daylight through the lane. So I won't be surprised if he runs better out of that race.
I agree. He does need the right trip, and we'll see if he gets it. I feel like he's actually run really well in both starts so far this year, and the trips just really haven't worked out for him. He needs to work out a clean one. But this horse, to me, if he gets a clean trip, he is a major, major player in here. I am using this horse for sure.
Let's go to picks for this Hall of Fame stakes. A lot of ways to go in here, Mike. I think we probably landed in different places based on our conversation. Who'd you put on top in this grade 2?
I thought about this for a really long time, and I at first I was pretty sure I was going to take Boas because I think he does need a clean trip there, but if he gets one, I think he's going to run really well in here. Ultimately, I'm going to take Third Coast again. I'm going to give him one more chance because I think he acquitted himself really well last time, and it may not look like he did on paper. So I still think he's going to be a pretty good price in this race. So I'm going to stick with him, hope he gets a better trip in here. The other 2 horses, the other horse for me is Boas. I put him third. He's the other one for me. And as a long shot to use sort of underneath the number 2 Print, because I think he is getting better with every start. I think he's going to be a big price again.
I am afraid of the number 1 Touch of Fire's potential pace advantage. Didn't really want to pick that horse as the favorite, though. And the more I thought about the question you posed earlier, Mike, is the Saranac the race you want or the Belmont Derby? I just didn't think those races were that big, much different in terms of quality. And the horse that I wanted out of the Saranac was Blinging It Back, who I thought was closest to the early pace and has run better than it looks in a few starts in a row. So I put him on top, 8-1-6-9 for me and 4-2-9-6 for Mike in the Grade 2 National Museum of Racing Hall of Fame stakes at Saratoga on Friday. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.